I'm talking to Ann Arbor's Interim City Administrator, Tom Crawford, and I just want to thank you for taking the time to talk to me.
Oh, good afternoon. Thanks for inviting me.
So I'm going to ask you the same question that I'm asking everybody, which is basically what kind of adjustments have you had to make in your life during this pandemic?
Um, wow. Well, we're about 7 weeks into this now, and I've had a lot of adjustments. It's like 7 months for me. I started in this position about 8 or 9 weeks ago, so it's been a lot of adjustments. I mainly work a lot. Some of the adjustments that I've made, I started out with this working a fair bit from the office. I have two children, 9 and 7, and so and a dog, and trying to get some of that work done at home initially was a bit of a challenge. My wife works as well, and so I was working in the office a fair bit, and I was one of about 6 people in the whole building. And as time, after a couple of weeks, we really transitioned really well, the whole workforce, into being able to not working in the office. And so I ended up, I've now been home for weeks. I don't go in at all. So the adjustments for me, I mean, I'm in meetings all the time. I don't know what to say. The job was, a little bit new just because I just hopped in it. But.
So since you are at home and I'm talking to you like in your household, I've been asking everybody what kind of precautions that is your household taking in those day-to-day activities where we have to go out in public, like going grocery shopping and those kind of activities. What kind of routines do you have in your house?
Well, we stay here, and so there hasn't been a whole lot that we've had to do. My wife is a therapist, and she was able to switch all of her clients online for this time, and so we do alternate on how we kind of watch the kids. But she's the one she enjoys grocery shopping, and that's pretty much the activity we do out away from the house. And she does that by herself, and she is very diligent about the mask and wiping things down and such. I generally, I've taken a few bike rides. I like to get out and do that kind of thing. But for the most part, we are right here at home. I've only been out, I think, one time in the last, other than running into the office to pick up a piece of paper or something. I think I've been out to a public place one time in the last, 7 weeks, 6 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, I haven't been to the store, haven't been anywhere.
Holy cow. Well, some people I've talked to really describe this feeling of being cooped up. And so I'm even more curious, how are you overcoming those feelings of being cooped up if you really are staying in your house that much?
Well, this has been a challenging scenario. So as far as the city organization, so I've actually had to do a lot of work. I am not one, people get their energy from different places, and I recognize a lot of people struggle with the lack of interaction with others. That has not affected me personally as much as it does others. I tend to be an introvert. I like to have quiet time as much as I can. For me, this has been a really special time because I get to work hard, but I also can at any moment kind of step away and enjoy my kids wherever they are. I sit in a corner of my house where there's a window on my left, a window on my right, and I can glance out and see them playing or doing whatever. Yeah, I mean, it's been challenging. What I have found, what I miss one of the things I miss the most as this has drug on longer and longer is the small interactions. I like to talk, you get so much of life, and some of the richness in life comes from those little small discussions when you just bump into people. And I get that at work, and I would get that outside of work normally. Those are the things that I think I miss the most. The homeschooling has been a challenge for us. We do, I tend to, my day is not as scheduled as it would be at work. So then I'll take a few breaks here and there, and then I'll jump off. And we recently built little offices for my two kids, just with all of the stuff in the house. So we have toys and stuff stacked up so they each have a corner that's quasi-private. And, that's good for a few days or a week of attention. So, that kind of stuff is a lot of fun to mix in. Before this happened, I was with the kids this age, as you probably recall or know, they take a lot of your time. So I'm largely, in general, at the phase of my life where if I'm working or I'm doing family things anyway, whether it's scouting or just other kids' activities. And that hasn't changed, other than that the kids' activities are now a little more directed by the parents. So.
Are you taking any special precautions when you are outside?
Oh, I'm sorry. I have the time I went out, I wore, I threw a dish towel around my face and did that. But other than that, like I said, I'm really just around the yard and stuff. So, and unless I'm walking around the block and I would say about 2/3 of the neighborhood uses a facial covering as they go around the neighborhood. My wife and I have tended to walk either in the road, or we all give wide berths to people, and we have not been wearing a facial mask around the block, which is about 1/3 of the people.
That's interesting. Yeah. My husband and I have been wearing masks when we go on walks in the neighborhood, and we are very much in the minority. What I'm observing in my neighborhood is that most people are not wearing masks when they're just walking down the sidewalk. Mm-hmm. That's what I've been seeing.
We also tend to walk in the evenings. I think wearing the facial mask is very important. So the fact that I'm not doing it when we choose to do it is not reflective of that. I think it shows a respect for the people. You don't know where the other person's coming from when you're walking down the street, and it shows a respect for where they're coming from in their life. What I'm conveying is we do it in a manner where we're not really running across people that much. It's usually after, at dark or in the road kind of thing.
Right. I think and then that's a point too. We're all sort of calculating risk, right? Because if we wanted zero risk, we would put ourselves in a Ziploc bag and never do anything. So, what would you say to people who are feeling so restricted by these guidelines that they are just really just tired of the isolation, tired of this quarantine? And, we have had these demonstrations in Lansing now a couple of times. What would you say to them?
Well, I think it's really important. This for all the things that happen to us in our life, this is just amazing how it is really an issue for everyone to deal with at the same time. And if we don't respect where the other people are coming from and sacrifice some of our freedoms in that respect, then we're not advancing society. And I think it's really important that our freedoms come from a society, and we need a society to function well. And so I do think we all have to play our part and get along. This is not forever, and it's not self-imposed. This is imposed on us. And so I think it's important that we respect each other and recognize that we need to do the things we need to do for this period of time.
I appreciate that. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Not really. I was trying to think what some of the questions are you might ask.
I told you them before.
Yeah. Well, I didn't really prepare answers to them. I glanced over them, to be honest. I guess one thing that I might share is, oddly enough, before I started this job, I had been asked to give a little speech on leadership to a group. And I had already prepared a few things on my leadership philosophy. And it was really interesting to me to then have to pull that piece of paper out and look at it, and now have it on the wall to remind me of some of the things that I need to try to follow, because it's somewhat aspirational. But one of them is never let a crisis go to waste. And what this means to me in this instance is that when we have crises like this, there are times when the crises are bad, but what can and then to some extent they all are. But to the extent that we can, how we react to a crisis create whether the outcomes of the crisis are really bad or good. And I think about that a fair bit as I do my job and as I work with the kids, because I do think that as we go through this, I try to keep that lasting impact of what's going to come out of this and try to make it a positive experience, because there are some, with all the difficult and bad things that go on in a crisis like this, there are good things. I see good things coming in the organization. I see good things coming in the community. It's been wonderful to see neighbors helping neighbors, people helping the human services people, human services agencies. This is an opportunity for example, for me to help my kids see some of that. The organization, for example, I've talked to the organization a couple times about trying to find a way to be innovative now. Like this, you can't think of a better way right now than to redefine government. So how can we do what we did yesterday in a different way? Zoom meetings is the obvious one that has been helpful to us. I don't know where we would be without Zoom in this crisis, but there are a lot of things that we may end up doing differently, some little and some big, in our personal lives and in our professional. So for me, I'm spending a fair bit of time, likely too much right now, but thinking about how that might help the organization and hopefully the community and how we deliver services. So.
Well, when you talked about the challenges of having your kids being responsible for homeschooling and that challenge, I can relate to the trying to find the silver lining. I'm enjoying having my kids home as much as it's not good in many ways. I'm trying to appreciate the time that we're having together, and I can relate to that.
You know, you walk into a situation like this and you know that when they're much older in their lives, as will we'll look back and say, oh, I remember that crazy time, right? And I look for moments that we're going to have that they'll remember. In my family, we like to learn through play. And so that we do encourage them to get out and make stuff and do stuff. And I looked out the window the other day and they had dug a hole in the yard, put a yardstick up and a cone on top. And they had we have a basement game, I think, where they go down to the basement and just pull something out. And they got some golf clubs and they had made a golf tee. So that has been an activity for several days. It's a fun time. And yeah, I'm glad to see them being able to do it. I don't normally get to do that. So. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me today. I hope we both get a chance to enjoy the sunshine. We've got some good weather.
Well, thank you for the time and good luck with your interviews.
Thank you so much.